Put on your hats of catastrophe. Today we are doing Final Fantasy. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but I guess it totally does. We're doing Final Fantasy games. I'm a big Final Fantasy nerd. I love the games. I have played most of them, not all of them, but I know all of them enough to be able to, well, you know. It's Final Fantasy. Never really changes. So, what we are going to do is we are going to examine these one by one in terms of how they do, what they did, what they're doing, and whether or not we can do whatever. It's Final Fantasy. Do I really need to explain this at this point? I don't think so. So let's go with number one. Number one is a classic. I know I'm saying that in a very particular tone, and I think everyone picks up on that particular tone, but it's Just because it's a classic doesn't make it good. Just because it's new doesn't make it good. Final Fantasy is an excellent series with excellent characters and excellent stories, but it didn't start out that way. I love the story behind it, where he's just like, you know what, I want to make a game that if I never make another game again, this is the Final Fantasy. This is the final one I want to do. And I think in regards to that, you know what? Sure, fine. Good job. I appreciate it for what it is. Number two kind of suffers the same thing, but it is better. It's different. It's slightly different. You're not just going around being like, oh, let's get the crystals from the places. Now there's actually more of a story, which is good. It's not quite so final of a fantasy, which is nice. Number three, I will say, I only have experience with the DS remake, and from that DS remake, I can firmly say I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad by any means. It's just really not. It's not really anything in my brain. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just fine. So I have to kind of keep that in the middle. It's more of a warming up type thing. It's more of a piece of a pie rather than a full slice. So keeping that in mind it is what it is. It's there. It's fine. I'm not mad at it. But at the same time, I'm just like, it's not one that I'm going to be like, oh, let's do this forever. 4. How do we go into 4? 4 is really interesting. I like the story. I like the characters. I find it a little forgettable in terms of, like, grand scale. I don't hate it. I'll put it that way. I feel like it was released when they re-released it. Obviously, it became much better, but overall, it's not my favorite. But I still recognize that it's pretty solid overall. There's a reason that this one got the sequel. Although I will talk about the sequel now, and the sequel wasn't very good. Do a lot of these games deserve multiples? Do a lot of these games deserve sequels? No. If they're called Final Fantasy, there's kind of the implication that it's the last one. So, like, do we need a Revenant Wings or a 2 or a Lightning Returns? No, I don't think we do. But all that being said, they made it. Is it fine? Yeah, it's fine. Kind of in that realm, I'm going to put 5 lower. I feel like it's definitely one of the middle of the road Final Fantasies. Certainly not one that I think gets talked about a lot today, at least not in my circles. Not something I see come up very often. So keeping all that in mind, I would say it's firmly in the middle. Not bad, not great, just kind of there. But we all know what's coming next. Oh, I did a mistake. That's 4. This is 6. Roman numerals, folks. Roman numerals. 6 is great. 6 is super cool. 6 is like this. I was wondering why Terra was in that. No wonder I was getting confused. No, 6 is great. 6 I have no issue with. It's fine. It's good. I really like it. I think that it kind of opens the door for a lot of other really good ones. So, yeah. No issues. Now that I have put this in the proper place, hopefully people are going to stop screaming at the screen. That's on me. So that's just me being silly and dumb. So oh man, if people take that out of the context, I'm gonna be crucified. But I don't think I will. I think I'm fine. Number 7. How do I do this? Is 7 good? Yes. Is it great? I like it. Like, I've always liked it. But it's not as good as 6. Okay, here's the thing. Final Fantasy VII, Disc 1, fantastic. Like, everything up to the point, the point, yeah, everything up to there is pretty good. But, like, the end game, which is, like, the last half of the game, I'm just like, maybe I need to play it again now as an older adult. The remake is clearly doing things very, very differently, so I don't know what they're going to do about that. But I love the characters, except for Kate Sith and Yuffie. I never liked Yuffie. But, yeah, I don't know. It's there. We're going to have it there. It'll be fine. Don't hate it. 8. 8 is... I used to love 8 so much. I really did. I thought 8 was, like, the best. And now I'm just, like, it doesn't quite hold up as well as I want it to. Some of the other ones do. A lot of the, I want to like it more than I do. I think that says everything there is to say. Well, I just said everything there is to say about it. So 8, I still love the story. I still love the characters. It just falls. It's another one that just kind of falls apart as it goes on. 9 is great. I have no issues with 9. I've never played 9 all the way start to finish, but I have seen every part of that game played. So I need to sit down with like 2 days and just, I don't know, whiskey or whatever, and just play Final Fantasy 9. That's what I need to do. Sometime before the end of the year, I will take a staycation. I will stay at home. I will play the game, and I'll play it forever. Final Fantasy X is my favorite game in Final Fantasy. It's so good. It's so good. And I love everything about it. I love the characters. I love the action. I love the gameplay. It's probably my favorite battle system in the entire game, save for one. It's great. I love Final Fantasy X. I love it. It's great. I love it. I have nothing bad to say. Spira is my jam. I will still play this game regularly to this very day, probably until forever. Hopefully. We'll find out. So, how do I feel about the sequel? Final Fantasy X-2. Many people hate on this game. I am not one of them. I love it. I'm actually replaying it right now, and I am reminded how much I love it. The story's not great. I'm just going to throw it out there. So, the story not great automatically makes it, if I'm being realistic about here. But it's so good. The battle system, so much fun. So much fun. The action, so much fun. It's great. It's great. I don't even know if you can play Final Fantasy XI anymore, but I just remember it coming out and me not being overly impressed. So, Final Fantasy XI is going to stay closer to the bottom right now. Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII is different. It is different. And I don't know if I love it or if I just kind of like it. Am I in like with it? I don't know. Am I in love with it? I don't know. But it is cool. I like the story. Every time I play this game, I put it down at some point and never pick it up again. There is something about this game that it's hook repellent. It's just not happening for me. It's not. And because I've never played it, I've never bothered to play Revenant Wings. And because I've never bothered to play Revenant Wings, I don't get the point of why it exists. And I don't think other people do too. I don't see anyone being like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy XII, Revenant Wings, that's a great game. If you are out there, please let me know. Alright, let's get tough. Final Fantasy 13 is my least favorite Final Fantasy experience. I played it for 8 hours. I know it gets good after like 15 hours in, but that's a long ass time. And you can't ask someone to play, like, why did they release 2 sequels for it? Of which I will grant, I hear they are marginally better. But Final Fantasy 13 turned me off so hard. It not only turned me off to the game, but it turned me off to Final Fantasy, a series that I loved. I was so hyped for Final Fantasy 13 going in, and it crushed my heart. I hated it. I resented it so hard because why did they do this? It could have been so good. Why? One day, will I ever give this another chance? I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't think I will. And I don't think that I care enough to give it another go. Anyways, that's just me being pedantic. How do I feel about Final Fantasy XIV? I hear it's wonderful. I have not played it yet, but based simply off of other people's recommendations, I feel like it's right up there with Final Fantasy X too, and one day I hope to play it again. Final Fantasy XV is another game that is hook repellent. Battle system, fun. Story, could be more interesting. It's one of those games that just didn't hook me, and I love the series, and it didn't hook me. Based off of my initial impressions, I would put it low. Like, I don't even, like, I'll put it above 1. But it's not fun. I don't like watching people drive around for 5 to 10 minutes. Going different places. Like, yeah, the scenery is gorgeous, but by God, why? Why did they think that was a good idea? It just feels masturbatory. Everything is just one. It's so, well, at this point, I think my feelings on this are clear. So, there we go. Final Fantasy ranked. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. My name is Matti McLean. You can find me on problematic streaming platform Spotify at A Canadian in Eurovision. You can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at The Big Shabam. And finally, if you like what you've seen here and you want to help me out, feel free to like, subscribe. It really does help. And also, if you want to see me do something next, don't be afraid to tell me. Looking forward to hearing from you all soon, and you have a great day now.